Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Lightstep Incident Response overview video. My name is Darius Kumar and I'm one of the product managers here on the Lightstep Incident Response product. And today, I want to talk about the specific automation features we've put in place. Let's take a look. After you've logged into the Lightstep application, you'll find an automation section on the left-hand menu bar. If you click into that automation section, you'll find a section called Response Rules. Now, these response rules are a classic notion of if this, then that style automation for how you want the system to automatically process the alerts that are coming in. Now, there's a wide variety of use cases that we'll cover when we talk about what actions are possible. But let's first talk about this list view here, the type of information we're getting from this list view, and some of the actions you could take. So to begin, you'll immediately be able to understand the name and description for any rules in the system, understand the scope or what these rules affect, global being any alert that comes in, or if there's a specific service or team that it affects. And you'll also be able to see the actions that this given rule is taking. So I could see that this test INC rule, it has an action to create a Slack channel. Stop after run is an important condition because a given rule may want the system to stop processing any other rule so that it's the final rule that runs. In this case, none of these rules have stop processing set to true, and so the column is empty. I also see an active column, so it's very easy to understand which of these rules is actually affecting alerts that come into my system and which rules are still in design time or being edited. And I can always reorder rules by pressing this reorder icon. Now, something that's interesting that I'll highlight is that all your rules will always execute from lowest order to highest order. And that makes sure that the business logic that you want triggered runs in the specific order that the system dictates. That's important because, for example, if rule A assigns group B and rule B only takes an action if group B is assigned, you want that second rule to run after the first. And so keeping that order in mind is extremely important. Now, other things you can do is, of course, search for a rule based on that name and description, change the ordering to see what's been going on, and apply a filter to see just those rules that are active, for example, or the ones that your team specifically created, as opposed to ones that are maybe come with the system. In this case, though, let's create our first rule. So I'm going to press the create new rule button here in the upper right. And that's going to let me define, first of all, the name of this rule. And so I'm going to say this is my test demo rule. The description is just going to be a test demo. And you could see here, because I'm an admin, I can apply this rule to all teams and services, aka every alert that comes in. If I was running on a specific team, however, let's say I'm part of this demo 1 team, I could pick just that team. And now only alerts that come in for that team will be processed against this given rule. If you're wondering, well, maybe the alert is not yet routed, that's a great reason to use these global rules. So for example, when a service is defined on a given alert, the on-call team for that service will automatically have the work routed there. But what if there's no service? Then you want something like a global rule to set that service, for example, right? And so it could say something like, if your short description contains network, then in that next screen where we set the action, we would do something like set the service to network, right? But let's clear out that example. And for my demo, I'm going to take an action for just when the alerts are P1s or P2s. So here in this condition builder, you're defining essentially the if condition. What needs to be true on the alert that is either inserted, aka created, or updated by a user to cause this rule to run. Now, rules will only run once for a given alert. So if you have a P1 alert and a rule that said, hey, for a P1, create a Slack channel, it'll only run once for that alert. Even though someone might switch it to P2 and then back to P1, you won't have a duplicate Slack channel. It'll just be that one. But in our example, we were talking about priority. So I could come in here, I could say, hey, if priority is 1 or if priority is 2, then I want this rule to run. And I want other rules after this rule to also run as well. If I wanted the system to stop any processing because my logic is, that's all I want that's happening for this given record and nothing else, I would say no, stop processing. But for now, I'm going to say yes, continue processing. So I'm going to save and continue. And here you can see from the response rule actions, you have a number of actions that are available to you. Let's start with the first one, modify field values. This is a way where you can automatically change and set a specific value on the alert based on that previous screen's condition being met. So if you remember, if the short description contained network, maybe I want to set the service and a tag to include network. Maybe if the source of the system was Datadog, then you want to include a different piece of information. Or another common example is providing your team with specific information that's maybe housed in a KB. So I could set the description, or the work notes is a good place to put it to something like, for networking issues, please read this KB. And then it's the full, KB link for networking issues related to that given service. And so a lot of different use cases on this if this then that for actions you want to take. You can assign a specific team. You can assign, as I mentioned, a service. You can also add potentially additional responders. So maybe it's very common, in addition to the on-call user who is assigned automatically based on the service and the team and the on-call schedule, maybe you want to add in additional users to help support and swarm. Well, you can do that by coming in here, coming to this responder list and adding those additional users, and the system will automatically then add those users as collaborators when that given issue opens. So think of this as a way to automatically set field values. Another great example is priority. Maybe you have a business logic that says anything that comes in that's networking related has to be a P3, right? And then triaged, or a P1. A lot of different use cases for why, based on some condition, you would want to set certain field values on the alert. So it's a lot of process optimization there. The next example I want to bring up is sending an email. So when an alert comes in, you could also decide to send a bespoke email. Maybe you have a urgent distribution list at your company. And anytime a P1 alert comes in, you want to send it to that urgent DL so that it kind of notifies everyone. Well, that's a great use case for this email. Another use case for this email goes back to my notion of a knowledge article. And so email subject, that's what I meant to type here last time, didn't meant to send it to. But email subject allows us to put in something like, KB related to alert, and then the alert number. And I could actually dynamically put that alert number in. This is a good thing to know. By using this syntax here to the right, this picker, this will let me pick a field, like let's say number, and I could see that formatting, that $:number, and I could put that right there into that subject. And so dynamically, we're going to populate this $bracket number bracket with the actual number of the alert record that caused this rule to run. So here is that, and then I could put in, I would put in the article. So this is the article link again of the KB. And you could see here this URI ref, $bracket URI ref. Well, that's a great way to put in the link back to that record as well. So it makes it really easy for users to get context, jump in, and you want to add any additional details, inform additional users of what's going on. You can do that with this email option in a bespoke manner. A very common piece of automation we hear as well, though, is around Slack. So we have a great chat ops capability, which we'll cover in a different video. But you could also auto-generate a Slack channel or a Zoom meeting for that purpose here in the system. And the nice thing is when that channel is created, you can again set automatically values in that channel to give users context about what's happening with that alert. And so here I could assign a primary, a backup, my whole responders, all the users on the responder list that I automatically set with that other role, and they automatically get invited. And so the Slack channel, the name will be the alert number, and it'll post all these details automatically. Really great way that maybe, only for P1s or P2s you do this just so that the noise is reduced. But ultimately, you could also automatically create channels for all your alerts if you really wanted to. Another great power we have here for automation is this API webhook capability. We let you call an outbound webhook URL and hit it with a post. So a post command with the following, you could stick JSON in here, and format it. You could technically also put XML in. Of course, you would change the brackets, etc. But the key thing is you're dynamically setting a payload, right? Priority, colon, this is JSON format, and then we're using this field picker to the right, which will again dynamically set the values based on what I have in the system. And so this is a great way to interface with maybe a playbook automation system, an outbound system to create a ticket externally, some event large outage notification system or status page, and you could automatically push that event through it using this webhook. And you could do one event for, open, and then you could have a different rule that does another event when the state changes to close for that alert, as an example. So a lot of great examples, and you also have a test capability, which is nice. Of course, I don't have a URL in here, so we're not going to see a response, but you would be able to see the response of that payload here as well. Now, the last action I'm going to talk to is create an incident. In Lightstep Incident Response, we have the notion of an alert, which is like an informational record of, hey, your monitoring system told you there's something is going wrong. You look at it, or you have a response rule, triage it based on conditions, such as maybe it's a P1, latency is above a 90% threshold, is very critical as opposed to low priority. Then we immediately want all hands on deck. We want to call this an incident. And so you could have a response rule based on a condition, again, automatically create an incident. And now the alert response rule will automatically map all the relevant fields, assign to, assignment group, service, short description. We'll map that to the incident by default. But if for some reason you want to override something, like maybe it's a P1 alert, but that only constitutes a P2 incident, you can change and override those mappings to a static value that you set here. And so it's a great way in case you want, do different triage, something like that, based on that incident getting auto-created and linked to that child alert that caused it. So I'm going to go ahead and save those actions. If there are any errors, so you could see here for email, I forgot to select at least one participant. I'll select that participant. You could see for the API webhook, I did not put in a valid URL, so we'll actually just disable that. We'll take that out, and we'll go ahead and save this rule. And just like that, we have created our first response rule. Now, in the future, we are looking to improve this. We're looking to always add more automation, to take your manual processes, to take remediation and apply automation to it. And we'll also want to look at doing automated grouping here in the future as well. So I hope this video has been helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to drop those comments in the comments below. If you have enhancements, I'm here to serve you and to hear your feedback. So I hope you found this informational. I look forward to seeing you and talking to you in another video here shortly.